a horrifying zombie virus spreads quickly in Florida and soon infects people all over the United States. The virus turns people into aggressive, bloodthirsty creatures. To stop the outbreak, the government sends out many drones to patrol the area. If anyone leaves their quarantine zone without permission, the drones will kill them without hesitation. A man named David is living in isolation inside a wooden cabin. It has been over 6 months since he was informed that he is a carrier of the virus, but since he has shown no signs of infection, he is forced to stay under strict quarantine, and he must regularly provide blood samples for research. To keep his blood in the best condition, he has a strict daily routine. He sets up multiple alarms to remind himself to eat on time and do exercise. Every night, he must draw fresh blood and carefully store the sample. The next morning, he leaves it at a designated drop-off point, closely monitored by government drones. In exchange for providing his blood, drones regularly deliver food and supplies to him. His life is repetitive and lonely, but his daily video calls with his girlfriend, Sam, keep him going. Sam, who is a healthcare worker, encourages him, saying that once scientists extract antibodies from his blood, the virus will be defeated and they can finally be together again. One day, while David is checking his health as usual, his phone suddenly rings. He rushes over to answer it. On the other end is a man named Todd. Todd reveals that the outside world is in complete chaos and everything has collapsed. Food has become so scarce that survivors are turning on each other. He asks if he can come to David's cabin for help. David refuses immediately. He explains that he is an asymptomatic carrier of the virus and is under strict quarantine. Todd tells him that he has never heard of an asymptomatic carrier before. He questions whether David is even infected at all. This shakes David to his core. For the first time, he begins to doubt everything. The next morning, when David steps outside to place his blood sample at the drop-off point, he takes advantage of the drone's patrol blind spots and sneaks away. He finds an abandoned house and manages to get his hands on a blood test kit. Following the instructions, he takes a drop of his blood and places it into a test tube. Just as he does this, a sudden noise outside startles him, and he quickly grabs the test tube and prepares to leave. While passing a lake, a zombie suddenly appears behind him. David turns to run, but in his panic, he slips and falls into the water. Just when David thinks it's over, an arrow from a crossbow whizzes through the air, hitting the zombie in the chest. David whips around and sees a figure standing on the shore, wearing a full hazmat suit. David grabs his test kit and runs as fast as he can back to his shelter. Once inside, he locks the door and spends the entire night on edge, terrified that the mysterious person might come after him. The next day, everything seems normal again. He takes out the blood test kit, holding his breath. To his shock, the color of his blood sample has turned blue, meaning he was never infected. In a sudden burst of rage, David grabs an axe and smashes all his alarm clocks, one by one. That night, David tells Sam everything. He demanded answers, pressing her to finally reveal the truth. However, as always, Sam avoided giving him any real explanation. She simply told him that it was a military secret and that she couldn't discuss it with him. She insisted that the vaccine was nearly ready and that soon they would be able to meet in person. Something about her behavior seemed off. But for now, David decided to play along. He reluctantly agreed to continue giving his blood samples, but deep down, he had already made up his mind. The very next day, David followed one of the drones, staying hidden as he moved. The drone led him through a dense forest, and after some time, he finally spotted a small camp with 2 tents. Before he could fully process what he had just seen, the sound of a drone buzzing overhead made David quickly duck behind a nearby rock. Then, he saw the mysterious man in the yellow hazmat suit, carrying a crossbow and carefully scanning the area. After a few tense moments, the man seemed satisfied that no one was there and turned toward the other tent. David followed him, and what he saw inside completely stunned him. It was Sam, sitting in the tent, injecting herself with blood from a blood bag, and seemed terrified of the sunlight. Without a word, they both returned to David's cabin. David confronted Sam, demanding to know why she had been lying to him all this time. Sam hesitated, but eventually, she revealed everything. She admitted that there was no cure for the virus, and the government had decided to kill all infected people to stop the virus from spreading. To protect David, Sam told the government that he was also infected. She claimed she needed him for vaccine research so that he wouldn't be killed. David almost believed Sam's story and felt grateful for everything she had done to protect him. But while she was talking, Sam kept glancing at his injured arm. That's when David suddenly realized something was wrong. He grabbed a blood collection needle, pricked Sam's hand, and quickly locked her in a room. Then, he dropped her blood into a test tube. The liquid inside turned bright red, confirming Sam was already infected. Needing further proof, David rushed back to her tent. There, he found a computer with saved video logs of Sam. As he watched, he discovered Sam had been infected all along. However, through her own research, she had discovered a way to suppress the effects of the virus by receiving blood from uninfected people. But the side effect of this method was that it made her extremely sensitive to sunlight. Everything clicked into place. David now understood that the blood he had been providing wasn't for any vaccine research. It was for Sam's survival. That's why she had always told him to exercise daily. David found something even darker on the computer. Sam had made a deal with the government. Everything, including David's role, was part of an experiment. The government wanted to see how long human blood could keep Sam from fully turning into a zombie. David suddenly remembered he hadn't given Sam any blood today. As he checked the camera feed from his room, he saw Sam starting to transform.
Okay, I'm coming, Sam.
He rushed back to his cabin, but when he arrived, it was already too late. The front door had been smashed open, and Sam was gone. David searched the house, unaware that Sam was silently creeping up behind him. She lunged at David, and he ran upstairs as fast as he could. He reached the window and threw open the curtains. A stream of sunlight flooded the room, and Sam scrambled away, retreating to a dark corner. David stood there, heartbroken, as he watched his beloved turn into a monster. But he couldn't give up on her. He thought that if he just gave her more of his blood, she could stay human. He quickly picked up an IV to draw blood, but just then, dark clouds covered the sun. In an instant, Sam attacked, making a strange clicking sound with her mouth as she moved toward him. David, overwhelmed with love and despair, stopped struggling. He didn't fight back as Sam sank her teeth into his shoulder. As Sam drank his blood, her humanity slowly returned. Tears welled in Sam's eyes as she saw what she had done. Sam couldn't take it anymore, as she was tired of living as a half-human, half-monster creature. Before David could stop her, she ran outside into the sunlight. The moment the sunlight touched her skin, her body began to burn. David, weak and barely able to move, crawled toward her lifeless body. He held her tightly, refusing to let go. At that moment, drones appeared in the sky. Soon after, David realized he had been infected. Not wanting to become a monster, he started digging a hole, preparing to bury himself. But as he lay in the pit, sunlight hit his skin. The searing pain snapped him back to reality, and his survival instinct kicked in. Sometime later, Todd, the man who talked to David on the phone, arrived at the cabin. He found David's stockpile of supplies and was grateful for that. Then, an alarm beeped. Todd sat in front of the computer, and to his shock, a video feed appeared. It was David, but now he calls himself Dr. Chambers and was working as a healthcare scientist. He tells Todd that he had found a cure, but to make a vaccine, he needs Todd's blood.